You failed. That's something that I would want to tell the gay Republicans, gay conservatives who keep trying to tell me and the world that actually it's the left who really don't like gay people, and it's the left who are the real intolerant ones, and the right actually are far more tolerant to people who aren't like them, things along those lines, this, that, and the third. You see this all the time. You failed. That's what I would like to tell a lot of them. From log cabin Republicans to the Christian Walker type Republicans to any sort of make or model of conservative who is not straight and cis specifically, I would like to say that you failed. And their long-standing idea that they can change their Republican Party, that they can fix him, that they can make them something that's far more amenable to their views and their beliefs than we would, us as like lefties, would like to believe. That's what I would like to tell them, but it seems like I won't get that ability to, because at the moment it seems like that's what they're telling themselves. Because this segment today is about something incredibly interesting, which is that gay Republicans are giving up. We failed. Gay Republicans who fought for acceptance in Texas GOP see little progress. It seems like over their years, 30 years plus of working to rehabilitate the conservative movement, and specifically the one in Texas, they've seen little to no progress. And in the worst cases, they've seen backslides into things that are worse than when they began. These people are voting against their own interests. And I'm not saying that in the sort of like they're like gay people traitors or like queer traitors or something. That's not what I meant. When I say that they're voting against their own interests, I mean they're voting against their own personal interests for what they would want. The belief that the Conservative Party would be anything on, would they be anything close to affording these people the same fundamental human rights that they deserve as people. It's just not going to happen. That's not what conservatives believe in. And especially today when conservatives are becoming more and more radicalized by the day, that's not something that you're ever going to be able to get from them. And it seems like that's something that they've had to figure out the hard way by themselves. And they say themselves that they just failed. Now this is Dale Carpenter, outside of his home in Dallas, is the state president of Log Cabin Republicans in the 1990s. This is a great example of what log cabin Republicans, gay Republicans, and queer people who are working inside and outside of the GOP movement and the conservative movement in this country are feeling. And if he's saying that they failed, I don't know if there's much more than I can say to go against that. In June 1998, a group of gay and lesbian conservatives pushing for greater representation in the Texas Republican Party convention in Fort Worth found themselves in a frightening clash with members of their own party. Members of the Log Cabin Republicans were protesting at the gathering of party faithful after the state GOP officials made an offensive comment comparing the group to the KKK and PDF files, which is, really bad. Basically, they said that gay people in the log cabin Republicans who are fighting for their own, not even like anything crazy. They were just, fighting to be seen as like a real normal part of the conservative movement. They got called the KKK, which I highly doubt that this official was even that much against, and PDF files. You hate to see it. The group was also protesting the rejection of their request to host a booth in the convention, the second time in a row they'd been denied, where they hoped to share information about their organization. Counter-protesters surrounded log cabin Republicans wielding signs with homophobic slurs and phrases. Gay life equals AIDS, then hell. It seemed like they've already got the math figured out. So gay life equals AIDS, which is quite curious. There's no even they didn't even use PEMDAS here, and then just hell. So you hate to see it. And this is what the log cabin Republicans were working with. And this is what I'm moving up because I have to scroll past an image with what it seems to be like 27,000 slurs from 1998 that I cannot show on screen. Gays plus life equals AIDS plus hell. Okay, there you go. That's something. Yeah, we failed. You don't say. You really think you failed? That's so sad. Who could have seen this coming? It was a tornado of emotion, volatile, dangerous, ready to touch down and sweep us all away at any moment, said Dale Carpenter over what happened that long ago. Gay Republicans who had fought for acceptance within the GOP over the past 3 decades told the Texas Tribune progress has been excruciatingly slow. Many of them have left the party. Even a number of log cabin Republicans in Texas continues to grow. I don't believe that we made any progress. In fact, I think the party has gotten worse. Carpenter, who is no longer involved in party politics, said of his time in the state's as the log cabin's president. Since the group's inception in 1989, log cabin Republicans of Texas have been denied a booth at the state convention, and this year's convention was no different. And so, like, being denied booths, not being allowed in, not wanting to be seen as a part of their movement was something that log cabin Republicans and other like queer Republicans have had to deal with for as long as they've been around. This party is not something that lends itself to being one that's accepting of these types of people. They don't fit into the model. They don't fit into their ethos at all, which makes perfect sense. They don't position themselves as people who would be accepting of these types of people as normal people, which queer people are. And many people would even say like, come on, do you really think that things have gotten worse? Do you really think that they've made such little progress in this time? Even some people, like, even like where we're leftists here, we understand, we see it, but some people may not understand that. And I completely understand that. If you're watching that, and if you're watching this and you think that, I understand you. I would like to move your attention to this. Conservative LGBT group denied a spot in Texas GOP. Log cabin Republicans will not be allowed to have a booth at Texas's GOP convention yet again. Do you think that this is something that's just like a fluke, like out of nowhere? Do you really think that this is something that they didn't do like on purpose? Log cabin Republicans, they're a reasonably large advocacy group associated with the Republican Party, as much as Texas GOP does not want them to be associated with the party, but they weren't allowed in. Again, for some time after that, they were allowed to have booths and they were allowed to talk and they were allowed to share their experiences and make themselves seem like human beings to these people who don't want them to have the same human rights as them. And again, they were denied a booth this year at Texas's GOP convention. And this year's Texas's GOP convention is much different than the other GOP conventions that they've had, because this year they took a massive stance against queer people again, like they did in the past. And this is on the heels of something that they've been doing for quite a long time. State agency removed online resources for LGBTQ youth after complaints from Republican challenger to Greg Abbott emails show. So we talked about this last year and we made a video about it last year, but to bring your attention to this again, when Greg Abbott was running for re-election and he was running in the primary, he had someone who was even further right than him, Greg Abbott, who was a primary challenger. And at that point in time, a very serious primary challenger. And that primary challenger called out Greg Abbott for allowing there to be LGBT suicide hotlines and anti-abuse resources on Texas's state websites. And so Abbott, instead of, putting his foot down and being like, no matter what we think about these people, we don't want them to kill themselves and we want them to be able to have resources to not be abused. Instead of that, what he did is just remove the LGBT suicide hotline from the website. He removed that. He removed other resources to get in touch with people. If you're specifically being abused because of your identity, all of these certain things are just gone because he was being challenged to the right. And that can tell you, this can tell you a lot about what these people are and what they really believe. This is supposedly the pro-life party. Removing a suicide hotline, how is that pro-life? That seems like the exact epitome of pro-life. Something as simple as just a suicide hotline. You're not even promoting it. You just don't want them to kill themselves. It seems like that's not what they wanted. It seemed like they did just want to kill themselves. They do just want them to kill themselves if they're not allowed to kill them themselves. Texas Child Welfare Agency removed a webpage that offered resources to LGBTQ youth following complaints from one Republican Governor Abbott's GOP primary challengers, according to an internal agency communication. So this isn't even like hearsay. This isn't like something that people like thought up would happen. This is exactly what people knew was going to happen. They said themselves that we don't want to look like we're too nice to gay people. We don't want to look like we're supporting gay people by telling them not to kill themselves or helping them make sure that they don't kill themselves, because for them, it doesn't really matter how it happens. Less gay people is a plus. It's incredibly sad. something as well that came from the GOP in Arlington, Texas. A homophobic MAGA preacher in Arlington was at the city council, and he had this to say.
My name is Jonathan Joey. I'm the pastor of Steadfast Baptist Church, and I'm here today because I have church members that live in Arlington. I live only a few miles away from here, and I do business in Arlington on a weekly basis. I'm horrified and ashamed that this city has decided to promote and solicit pride in this city. Pride is nothing to be celebrated. In fact, it's an abomination. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 8, the fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way and the froward mouth do I hate. According to God, we should hate pride, not celebrate it. We should humble ourselves, as virtually the whole room said that we were a nation under God, according to the American flag, and we were a state under God, according to the Texas flag. We should humble ourselves to what the Bible says, and not what the small minority here that is a bully would say.
Amen.
In June of 2020, Mayor Jeff Williams officially announced the acceptance of Pride Month in June for the city of Arlington. But I don't understand why we'd celebrate what used to be a crime not long ago. In fact, according to the Texas Penal Code and Section 21.06,
please be respectful.
Thank you. Homosexual conduct, a person commits an offense if he engages in deviant sexual intercourse with another individual of the same sex. In fact, that is still on the books today, even though Lawrence versus Texas overruled that in 2003. But God has already ruled that murder, adultery, witchcraft, rape, bestiality, and homosexualities are crimes worthy of capital punishment. Leviticus 20:13, the Bible says, if a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination, they shall surely be put to death.
Amen.
Their blood shall be upon them.
So I don't think we need to play too much more than that. He goes on to talk about, actually, you know what? Here, we should hear the quote.
Romans 1 says that men with men are worthy of death. 2 Peter chapter 2 warns and says that in turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an example of those that after should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. The Bible's right that what these people do is filthy. According to the CDC, homosexual men are 230 times more likely to get HIV than straight men. I don't know why we would promote disease and AIDS in our community. Additionally, according to this article of self-reported crimes, the LGBT have an average of 20 to 150 children victims, and including they commit an average of 154 acts on their victims. Now here's the thing. They say that they love so much, but they hate children. They hate Baptists, they hate Christianity, and they hate God.
Amen.
We should eliminate Pride Month. We should eliminate the LGBT department liaison. We should eliminate the travel page dedicated to LGBT. And everyone in this room should watch the Sodomite Deception, which would clearly illustrate what the Bible says on this issue, providing actual stats instead of bullying people.
Amen.
So I just want everybody to be clear. What he's saying here is that he's saying that they should all be killing gay people. He said that they should all just be killing gay people. Sodomite deception. Hey, listen, he gets really deceived when someone starts pounding away, digging away at his boy cervix. It's very sad. You hate to see it. He thinks that gay people deserve the death penalty, that we should just be killing gay people. We should be killing queer people. This isn't something that's This isn't like something that I can make up. I'm not inferencing here. It's something that he literally just says. And not just something that you say when, you know, you're in the moment or something, or you're very angry. He said this in front of this entire city. He wrote this down. So he had the time to read it, to recheck it. He had probably had other people check it, all the way up until walking up there. And even in the middle of saying it, he had his option to change his mind. He decided not to. Because everything he said here is what he meant. And while a lot of conservative people, your average conservative person, may not agree with it on the face of it, a lot of politicians didn't say a single word when this came out. This was only 3 months ago. And he's saying that he wants the GOP to go out to kill people who disagree with him, who I'm not even going to say lifestyle, because I wouldn't even say that like being gay is a lifestyle. Being straight is not a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle choice. So it's not a lifestyle, period. It's literally nothing. It's simply like the type of people that you're attracted to. I don't think the type of people that you're attracted to is a lifestyle. That doesn't make much sense at all. And a lot of the stats that you even read out were not even really true. Even these days, gay people are not like wildly more likely to contract HIV than straight people are. And that's an idea that needs to change. And thankfully in like Canada, they repealed their, it's incredible that it's been on the books for so long, their gay people aren't allowed to like give blood thing. Like, it's just insanity how close we are to actually like barbarian, inhumane sort of like treatment of gay people. I'm gonna say this. From what I've seen, gay people get like STD checks way more than straight people do. Okay. Like a lot of straight people don't get an STD check until their urethra is dripping sweet and sour. So, you know, and then they're like, oh, I think I should get checked up. You think, buddy? Really? Doesn't the Bible say above all else to forgive and treat your peers with respect regardless of class or culture? Yes. Here's the thing is a lot of these people are quoting the Old Testament, and a lot of these people are quoting like Abrahamic law. Christians don't live under Abrahamic law. It's just not true. That's not how the Bible works. They like hear something being said and they go to like a law that was made 2,000 years ago in the very specific part of Israel. And they go, this is how we should be like living our lives today. That's not true. That's not how the Bible works. And especially since like Jesus came in with like his new doctrine. That's what we talk about in the New Testament. That's why I very, very rarely quote the Old Testament. It means very little to people who should be calling themselves Christian, really. But it's not like these people care much about the book that they try to say that they made their lives around, when all they do is cherry pick for things that allows them to hate the certain types of people that they want to hate. It's actually truly disgusting. Their creator waits. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But on that note, this is something that a lot of GOP believe, and or if they don't believe it, they don't think it's as bad as a normal human being would hear it. These people aren't normal. They have their own personal wants and desires. And a lot of that has to do with feeding into a base that is radicalized and hates these people with all of their hearts. It is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen, and it needs to stop. But when it comes to the GOP these days, they're not stopping. They're radicalizing. They're going even further. They're going back on a lot of progress that we've been able to make, because now that's woke and cringe or something. And I am going to say this, I don't think any of them ever really believed it. A lot of the people who are here today and a lot of people who are in the GOP who are making these rules today, a lot of them were around when a lot of these laws were on the book, and a lot of them agreed with it when a lot of these like anti-queer, anti-miscegenation laws were on the book. I think a lot of them agreed with it. And honestly, the only thing that they really care for is who's like giving them money. It's really easy to stay in power and to get a lot of money when you stoke the flames of culture war. And a lot of GOP, you saw that all during the Trump presidency when he came in and became the culture war president. He changed the game from the GOP talking about the even small amount of policy that they do have to only talking about culture war issues and things that don't matter to your average person, but it whips people into a frenzy and it gets them angry. And anger is a really tasty, delicious thing to feast off of if you're a politician, like the parasite that a lot of these people are. It's their favorite thing because you're able to form it and mold it into whatever you want. If you get somebody mad, if you get somebody really mad, what happens is they're really activated. And when they're really activated, they're really paying attention. And you can get them to do basically whatever you want, especially if you get them to feel like they're under attack. You get somebody to feel like they're under attack and angry. When people feel under attack, a lot of the times what happens is they revert to a really monkey lizard brain sort of ideology about the world, where they huddle together and they don't try new things and they go back to seeing things in very black and white for fear of anything bad happening, right? It's like if anything bad happens to you, you start to be super cautious. But on like a social level, we don't necessarily become cautious in the way of we don't really leave our houses. We become cautious of other human beings. And especially when these types of people, these politicians are able to use this for their own wants, that would like to point it to a group, point that anger and that vitriol to a group of people that they don't have to care about that much. It can be black people. It can be women. It can be immigrants. And typically the people that they love the most are minorities, because they never have to really care about minorities. You almost never need to care about minorities when it comes to you actually winning an election. Like Greg Abbott could be running on killing gay people. And as long as he says that trans people shouldn't exist, like there's a good likelihood that he could still win re-election, honestly. From going to be completely honest with you, because even places like Austin, like Houston, like Dallas, they don't like run the show in Texas as like queer friendly as a lot of these places can be. If you point it towards something, it's really easy to demonize the type of people and keep the flames up and be able to continue your reign when it comes to the amount of power that you're able to have and grow that power and the money you're able to get when it comes to fundraising. I mean, you've seen like DeSantis when it comes to, he hasn't talked about too much actual policy in Florida. He hasn't been talking about the whole like orange greening diseases that are going on, destroying Florida's agricultural industry. Hasn't been talking about the economy and how Florida right now has the worst housing market in like even like the Western world, not even just talking about America. It's all really, really bad. But what has he been talking about? He's been talking about how leftists want to play Pornhub in kindergarten, and how trans people want to steal your baby boy's penis and hang it up on their wall as a trophy. That's what he's been talking about, right? And so as the country falls apart, as their states fall apart, it doesn't really matter as much because they get something out of it themselves. This is what these people are. And you see this today where a lot of these people, and sometimes it's disingenuous, like they don't really care that much about it. And a lot of these people, like I said, were there when these laws were on the books. They believed it then. They believed it when they were overturned, but they had to change their tune to make sure that they stayed in power. But now that things are changing a little bit, now that the culture war is back up again, and now instead of it just being gay people, now it's trans people that they really hate. Now they can bring these laws back and try to fight for them again. And that's why you saw when the Texas GOP made their new policy platform for the state, they called being gay abnormal. They called it abnormal, unhealthy, and something that they should not promote. So they're literally taking upon it themselves to fundamentally say gay people should not exist. Being gay should not exist. We should not allow these people to be a normal part of society because they're not normal. And they have to be done away with in one way or another. Texas Republican Party refused to move to a gay conservative group this weekend during the event where a neo-Confederate Party activist also declared the 2020 presidential election illegitimate and called to repeal the Voting Rights Act. So they didn't let the log cabin Republicans in, but they let in the new slave-owning party in. Okay. It seems like they have their priorities straight. Gay people, bad. Slave owning, okay. Good to know. You hate to see it. The platform adopted by the Texas GOP convention this weekend says that homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice, and the party opposes all efforts to validate transgender identity. So what they're saying here is that gay people should not be allowed to marry who they want, to live amongst people as the normal human beings that they are, and all efforts. So anything from suicide hotlines to legalization and allowing the surgeries that they would like to be able to get, or even acknowledging their gender identity, is something that they completely oppose 100%. In February, Abbott issued an executive order directing state agencies to investigate parents of trans youth who received gender affirming care for child abuse. So thankfully this got overturned by a judge, but basically his entire goal was to say, hey, if you're a parent who allowed your child to get the medically necessary health care that both doctors and therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists and pediatricians all say is the correct way to deal with this condition, which could be gender dysphoria and gender dysmorphia, you deserve to go to prison. Thankfully, this got overrun because instead of insane, batshit crazy, brain dead politicians who done nothing for this country but suck up tax dollars and make everybody's life worse, shouldn't be deciding what is medically necessary for children. None of these people are doctors. None of these people knows what's going on. Some of these people saw tweets and they found out that they can hate trans people to be able to stay in power for longer. That's the only thing that these people really care about. Disgusting. And so with that being said, and with that being done, the family of one transgender boy who attempted to kill himself the same day Abbott's order came down has sued the state over Abbott's order, and this has still been blocked as far as I know. We can check back up on it sometime in the future. The day before the statement about the Texas GOP decision, Morgan denounced President Joe Biden's Pride event at the White House, similar saying GOP conservatives will not support the federal government trampling over the rights of states to stop leftist activists from infusing more woke identity politics into kindergarten classrooms. And Morgan is now the person who's working with the Texas log cabin Republicans, who are dancing on the fine line of a sort of, hey, listen, you're right when you say gay people are horrible and degenerate and need to be killed, but not us. We're the good ones. So I don't feel that bad for log cabin Republicans. I feel really bad for your average gay person. Log cabin Republicans are working for their own demise, whether they know it or not. But I think it's just really interesting that they're finally coming to the realization that they can't fix this horribly broken party that's rotten to its very core. You can't really save something that's not rotting from the outside in. It's rotting from the inside out. So this is a gay Texan GOP committee member who made a speech on the floor right before the new Texas GOP policy platform got put into place while they were debating. And you can hear what he had to say about this. I actually haven't listened to this yet, so.
I have an amendment I'd like to offer on the homosexuality plank under homosexuality and gender issues. Did you get there? You there? I want to add the following short sentence. Homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice, period. And then it says, we believe there should be no granting of blah, blah, blah.
So this here, homosexuality and gender issues. We believe there should be no granting of special legal entitlements or creation of special status for homosexual behavior, regardless of origin. We oppose any criminal or civil penalties against those who oppose homosexuality out of faith, conviction, or belief in traditional values. So basically what this is they're saying, the way in which they're framing this is that if you want to oppress gay people socially or in jobs, you should be able to deny someone a job for being gay. You should be able to deny someone from like being a teacher or working for you or working around you for being gay. You should be able to fire somebody if you find out they're gay. You should be able to socially distance, call slurs, and demean, demoralize, and socially ostracize somebody for being gay. And we all know that what they mean by when they say gay, they mean like just queer people generally. So this isn't just about gay people. These are all things that they believe. So even if it's out of faith, out of conviction, or you just believe in traditional values, whatever that shit is, whatever that means, that you should be able to do that no matter whenever, wherever. It's disgusting. And there's no such thing as special legal status. What they mean special legal status is that you get the same exact status. But it's the same way that like police believe that you respecting them is treating them with like ultimate authority, is that they believe what special status is means that there are laws on the books that say that you cannot treat this person discriminatorily. Same way you can't already, since the same way you already can't treat straight people, but you know how it is.
Oh, you're all surprised, right? Look, I have not spoken against any other of these planks on homosexuality. A lot of these things have been agreed to with Texas Values and others coming to a long conversation on these things. We don't just call, look, abnormal, yes, by scientific, mathematical definition, you are correct. And then we can put in Vietnamese Americans, because they're a very small percentage of America, are abnormal. This is meant to be insulting language. It's not, it does nothing for policy. It does nothing to move us forward. And honestly, it's a little insulting to drop this on this body right after you say, we don't have a lot of time to discuss other planks. This is, I'm sorry, but we have gone through this. If you wanted to do this yesterday, we had more time to discuss. That's fine. But dropping this on this committee right now, after these things have been so hard fought, after honestly something I deeply disagree with, I've ignored, I've allowed through, not been part of this at all, and then to come through this, it's harmful, it's hurting. I was called a pedophile outside. Somebody screamed pedophile at me because I'm a gay man. I am a member of this committee. I was unanimous. I'm sorry, I shouldn't get this emotional. I'm a member of this committee. I have been committed to this party. I have walked every weekend. These sorts of insults, I get it. We're against gay marriage. That's fine. I get that we're not there. That's okay. Personal insults, movements like this, should be beyond the pale of this party. It does nothing for love. It does nothing for policy. It does nothing for the gospel. It does nothing to move us forward as a party and gain voters. There are people screaming at people outside. There are people that are consistently harming and insulting people. I have never been treated like that at this party before. And we shouldn't be surprising people with this. If you had this language, you knew I was going to have an issue with this. You should have had the dignity. Every criminal justice reform issue I've gone to the sheriff, and me and him have talked about it. We don't always agree, but we've talked. Me and Will have talked about it. We've respected each other by doing that. This is disrespectful. That's all I'm going to say.
Incredibly sad, incredibly cucked person who's sitting in the lion's den and wondering why, as a gazelle, the lions voted for the Eat the Gazelle amendment. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. That's fine. So what he means by that's fine is I can understand that we as a party are not there yet. Basically, he's taking the position of, I'll take what I can get, right? It's sort of like, I'm not getting out of my lane. He's saying that it's not reachable at this very moment, which should tell you a lot about these types of people that even, and we can talk about, and like, I'll just sit for a moment on like the like marriage thing. If you believe that like Christian marriage and like state marriage are like different, why in the world would you be denying a gay person from being able to legally marry if it's not like a biblical marriage? If your version of a biblical marriage is not there, what in the world, why would you be denying that to that person? Because no matter what the state does, that should have no bearing on your spirituality and what the spirituality, the definitions that you would read in your holy book. This makes no sense, right? Because they're using it as an excuse. They don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Whether or not they had something to lean on is completely out of the question. If it wasn't there, they'd feel the exact same reason. So we need to back up from talking about the biblical standpoint, because that's not what they really care about, back to the human standpoint of they just don't want to see these people succeed. They don't want to see these people be treated as normal because they don't think that they're normal. They don't think they deserve to be treated as normal. They don't want to allow these people to live their lives without suffering, without pain. This is what these people are. This is how they believe. And this person, incredibly sad as it is emotional because, yeah, as just a normal human being, I would get emotional too if I had to go through this. If I'm going to be completely honest, I have to talk to people 24/7, pretend to be okay around people who want to see you killed. That's horrific. That is genuinely horrific. And it is an insult. He's right. But this is what these people have to deal with. And this is why the old log cabin Republican president said we failed, because fundamentally they're trying to do something that is not possible to do. They're trying to change this party for something that it cannot be, which is an accepting, loving party, a party that does not care about creed or origin or what you are or where you came from. That's fundamentally incompatible with a lot of conservative values, and you will not see it. There is not a single conservative party out there that just believes that. A lot of them can be okay with it on the outside, simply because there's no viable alternative for them to remain in power if they don't. But these types of people, you cannot change them. In a way like this, you cannot change them. They don't want to be changed, because fundamentally appealing to their humanity is not going to work. They care about something different than that. Money, power, which is something they can't get just by being nice. And when their party rewards them for the actions that they take time and time again, there's nothing different from this than like a Pavlovian response that we hate gay people, you give us votes. You hate gay people, we give us votes. It's kind of hard to break that. And then we reach over to our good friend of the stream, Dave Rubin, well-known classical liberal gay Republican. Okay, that's basically what he is. He's the same as this. He doesn't want to call himself like a straight up Republican, but this is what he is. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves a little bit. And some clips and things resurfaced around Dave Rubin talking about this a little bit, and I think it's incredibly interesting what happened. To see the facade of Dave Rubin starting to crack a little bit under the pressure of who he is and how he's being treated by conservatives who he tries to pretend are in his corner. So I want you to take a look at this really quick. So this is him speaking at a convention, the National Conservatism that he was invited to. I want you to take a look at this.
I know plenty of gay people that are horrified at what is coming out of the gay community now. I mean, truly horrified, because in many ways it's setting back a tremendous amount of progress. The progress of equality, the progress of, okay, you can enter the same contract that a heterosexual couple can, and now you can hopefully live a life that is sustaining. You know, it's ironic because there's a huge conservative argument, I think, actually, for gay marriage. I lived in West Hollywood in LA. It's sort of the gayest place on earth. I mean, the crosswalks are rainbow. It's too much, frankly.
Ew, gay people being proud of not being murdered. Ew, it's too much. Setting back what progress? Yeah, buddy. Progress in the conservative party. La Mao.
But there's nothing sadder to me than when you see, you know, this a 70-year-old guy that's spray tanned and fake hair. It sounds like Trump, but that's not what I mean. You know, that works out all day and carries his little dog and has nothing to live for other than that, and maybe being on the hunt still because he couldn't engage, because 50 years ago the world was very hostile to him and couldn't then get in a relationship that would be the thing that conservatives would want, even if it wasn't exactly the relationship that conservatives would want. So I actually don't want those things taught. I think that Douglas could probably explain this a lot better. I mean, the T thing has completely just dysregulated the entire conversation here. But I think in many cases, it's like we have to be able to separate when you're talking about that carve out. We have to have that carve out. I would say I would be a little worried. I'm still a little worried. Yeah.
Of course you're worried, because what I'm asking you to do is to be willing to consider. I mean, I'm talking in a dialogue, in a negotiation, but to be willing to consider something other than the maximal dream scenario.
Yes, I fully accept that.
In order to give the Christian majority the possibility of running a Christian society in Christian areas.
So I just want you to be understand in the way in which he's talking here, because this is incredibly manipulative, okay, in the way that he's talking. And just in case anybody missed it, he's advocating for Christians, massive air quote Christians, to be able to run their homophobic, racist, theocratic, fake Bible society where they discriminate and or ban the existence of anybody who's not a straight cis white person. And he's like, I know you're worried that they would want to kill you, but it's for the greater good. He's basically asking Dave Rubin to sacrifice himself and people like him for the Christian majority to be able to do what they need. And Dave Rubin's like, I'm worried that like something, you know, our rights could get rolled back. Now, he's worrying for the wrong reason, because like he thinks that the only types of gay people he needs to worry about are white gay people. I see you, racist little shit. But outside of white people, the average gay person, they're not working with the conservatives. What the hell? Once again, why the hell would the gazelles be working with the let the lions eat your face party? It's insanity.
But I think in many cases, it's like we have to be able to separate when you're talking about that carve out. We have to have that carve out. I would say I would be a little worried. I'm still a little worried. Yeah.
Of course you're worried, because what I'm asking you to do is to be willing to consider. I mean, I'm talking in a dialogue, in a negotiation, but to be willing to consider.
He's asking Dave Rubin to negotiate his life away. The life of him, his husband, the people who he knows, other gay people, negotiating like massive amounts of strife added to your life for simply the reason of people don't like to see you happy. So yeah, understand that.
Something other than the maximal dream scenario.
Yes, I fully accept that.
In order to create
dream scenario. And so he's trying to call like non-gay people who don't want to be gay living their life, and gay people being allowed to live their lives the way in which they see fit. He calls that a dream scenario. That's not a dream scenario, dog. That's a scenario we've had to force onto conservatives throughout the entire history of the planet.
To give the Christian majority the possibility of running a Christian society in Christian areas. Right?
Not only do I accept that, I will be very clear, I would strongly prefer that public schools teach the Old Testament and the New Testament rather than drag queen story hours.
So don't feel bad for Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is okay with being obliterated, okay? All the way up until he's the one being obliterated. Dave Rubin's perfectly fine obliterating gay people until he's the gay person being obliterated. That's the thing, right? This makes no sense. Public schools should not be teaching any holy books, okay? No matter what the holy book is. As a Christian, they should not be teaching any holy books, okay? I said that because I don't trust the way your random average person is going to teach like me or my kids like the Bible. And I don't trust anybody to teach them like anybody else's holy book, okay? There's no reason that should be done. If you want that done, do it in your own time. Whatever happened to being able to do that in your own time? Apparently, we shouldn't be teaching kids sex ed because parents should be able to do that themselves, but we should be teaching kids like our preferred religion because it's good. When teaching sex ed stops children from being sexually abused, but okay, whatever, I guess. I guess children not being sexually abused is low on our list of things to care about, whatever, I guess. And so Dave Rubin, he himself has come out in the sort of like the opposite of this reality that we've been talking about, that gay people are on the back foot and gay people are losing ground with their rights, their humanity to conservatives in this country because they're pushing less and less of it. And he's living in this dream world where things are getting better, and that actually conservative people are the ones that are treating him the best. Take a look at this.
There's this trope online, and I want to hear your thoughts about whether you think this is true, or I think there's a grain of truth to it, that you are like the token, that the conservatives will tolerate you, you serve a purpose, but they will never fully accept you. And as soon as you leave the room, it's like, look at that homophobic slur.
True. All true. All very true. Dave Rubin serves a very specific purpose within the conservative movement. And that's one in which he seems like the okay gay that they can reach out to, that they can help try to push and make look like they're not that hurtful, that harmful. Listen, we're gonna debate the slums that we're going to put you in and whether or not the slums are okay. And he's like, it's okay to teach that we should put us in slums. I mean, that's much better. Okay, buddy.
No. I don't believe it. I can't say that there is literally not one person that may feel that way, but I can tell you that Dennis Prager and his wife Sue are coming to my house for dinner tonight, as they come over often. I can tell you I've shared meals with Glenn Beck, millions of times, dozens of times, and all of these people. These people are just people, and some of them have gay brothers or lesbian sisters or a bisexual aunt or whatever it might be. And what I have by and large found is—
So I'm going to pause this here. What he's talking about is the most baseline respect, is that you can tolerate simply being around me. We're not talking about that. Honestly, that says a lot about how he thinks about this, that, it's not like, they'd be happy that I married my husband, the one that I loved, or they're happy or fine with me adopting children. And Dave Rubin, he knows he can't say that because all conservatives started to rain hell upon him when he said that him and his husband were going to be adopting another child. Dude, it was over, dude. Like Dave Rubin coming out and be like, I have no clue what happened, when every single conservative like came down to say that he is disgusting, degenerate, and should be put to death for trying to get another kid, that he had to lock down his Twitter account. It was so bad he had to lock down his Twitter account when he talked about it. He can't say that. He can't even pretend to say that. So if that's the case, and that's what we're talking about, he does serve a specific purpose. The only thing that we're talking about here is you shook my hand, you ate across from me at a table. This is not the top, like, peak peer of like acceptance. This is the bottom. And you can see exactly how his brain works, where he perceives the bottom rung, very minimal, most "you haven't killed me yet" as the top show. Oh, they're accepting of me. It's completely ridiculous. That on top of the fact is, I want you to take a look at this, him talking about conservatives and liberals and all this sort of stuff, and watch him contradict himself in the middle of him talking about how accepting conservatives are of him.
I would say this. I like conservatives. I like hanging out with conservatives. I like debating conservatives. I never find a rude conservative. It's almost impossible to find. I get nothing but love from conservatives. I spoke, you know this, I spoke at Liberty University, the largest evangelical conservative Christian college in America. I spoke in front of 14,000 people. You've done the exact same gig. These people know my views. They know I'm married to a man. I got a standing ovation. They couldn't have been nicer. I wandered around campus for a couple hours, people coming up to me saying all sorts of nice things. By the way, some people did come up to me and say, you know, I'm praying for you. And I don't know if they meant that I'm praying for you, meaning I'm trying to pray the gay away, or I'm just praying like your continued success.
Dave Rubin, just that copium. Holy, that copium is insanity, man. I've never seen someone cope so hard in my entire life. Oh, when they said I'm praying for you, what they really meant is I'm praying for you to succeed. Not like the gay way. That's okay. That's fine. Okay. Listen to how this continues though.
Or whatever, but it would almost be irrelevant to me. Even if someone,
I'm praying the gay away, well, that's not offensive. If they're not saying I'm gonna,
club me over the head,
we're gonna put you somewhere you shouldn't be. I'm praying for you.
And by the way,
okay, I can deal with that.
People say I'm gonna pray for you when you're like dying of cancer, not when you just have a husband. He's got a husband. He didn't try to, they didn't try to kill me. That's the bar. They didn't try to kill me. What's happening? So what we're looking at here, okay? I want you to see something really quick, okay? I want to show you something very important, because this is wildly important. The difference between these two people and this person, Dale Carpenter, my bad, sorry. The difference between these two people, the man from the beginning and these two at the end of this segment, is that only one group of these people has a vested interest in the status quo and how things are going in. Now, Candace Owens, Dave Rubin, as minorities in the conservative movement, do they have like a vested interest in them being like homophobic or racist? No. But they have a vested interest in maintaining their place when it comes to the money that they can make and the influence that they have and the potential for a career that they can make off of this continued suffering of people like Dale. Simply because they're both gay does not mean that they both have the same interest in any way, shape, or form. Dave Rubin has his own interests. And I'm not saying all of his interests are simply because of, him wanting money. I would imagine that at this point in time, a fair amount of the stuff that he actually believes are things that he believes. I would imagine that a fair amount of the stuff of things that he talks about, he genuinely believes. But that doesn't negate the fact that they all know where their money comes from at the end of the day. Candace Owens knows where her money comes from at the end of the day. Dave Rubin knows where his money comes from at the end of the day. And none of these people have a vested interest in the betterment of just black people generally in any way, shape, or form. Dale does and did. The reason why he left the party and why a lot of others did as well is not because he has like some place or a lot of power. He was much closer to the ground than Candace Owens or Dave Rubin is. And so he had a lot more to lose and a lot more to gain. And he realized that there's nothing for him left in this party, which can tell me a lot about how they're working, what they're doing, and what's going on. This is the type of person that he is, that Dave Rubin and other minority conservatives are. They have their place. They don't want to bite the hand that feeds. And they'll make up any excuse possible to maintain their certain place of power that they have within the structure. Because at the end of the day, having something within a violent structure is still better than being crushed by it. even if you know that you're next. The gay GOP are giving up. I wish them well in their continued pursuits of equality, at least, and not much else.